title of the lecture is Application of Quantum Computing to Design of Algorithms. My name is Shirish Nagar and I am from RCID 1107, Purnima College of Engineering, Jaipur. In this lecture session, basically we will see the basic evolution of quantum computing from the classical idea proposed by Alan Turing in 1930s, and what were the various algorithms that were part of this journey, and how they were modified to implement the basic idea of quantum computing and the quantum mechanics principles like superposition and entanglement. So we will begin with this lecture session with an overview of the quantum computing. Richard Feynman in 1981 introduced the idea of quantum computing, which was a modification over the classical system, and it was a new kind of computing machine built upon the principles of quantum mechanics, which were required for accurate and efficient storage and access of data and simulation of quantum mechanical systems. So now I'll give you a brief overview about the quantum computing. As I mentioned that Richard Feynman, a Nobel laureate, first proposed the idea of quantum computing in 1981. He indicated about a new kind of computing machine built upon the principles of quantum mechanics. It uses the sub-exponential time and space complexity. The classical computers in this scenario will prove unfit for the simulation, as the data will exponentially grow in order to entirely represent a quantum system. Now the quantum computing systems will be built on unique and modern properties of quantum computing. They will be able to process information which will be very, very large, and that too in a polynomial time. So there will be different applications of quantum computing besides the simulation of quantum mechanics. They will be also applied to various areas like cryptography and language theories and the information theories, and to prove certain mathematical theorems. In the journey of quantum computing, there were basic two algorithms that were apart. First was the Peter-Shor's algorithm, which was proposed to perform a prime factorization of integers in essentially a polynomial time. The Shor's algorithm demonstrated that there was an exponential speed up over high performing classical algorithms. Besides Shor's algorithm, the next algorithm which was a part is known as Low-Grover's algorithm for database search. The Grover's algorithm searches for a specified entry in an unordered database, and it also employs an important technique termed as amplitude amplification. The next algorithm was known as Daniel-Simons algorithm to determine exclusive OR, that is XOR mask value, over which a given invariant black box function. This algorithm has got an exponential speed up over any of its classical algorithms, and it has got an optimal runtime. Its applications are to identify the hidden abelian subgroup problem, and also to factorize integers into prime, and also to calculate very difficult, that is discrete logarithms, which are vastly used in cryptography. This is a photograph taken by J. Boyer of the quantum computer known as an ion tap quantum computer. created by Jonathan Holmes, Dr. Jonathan Holmes. As you can see that it is a very complex it is a very complex structure. Now we come on to the basic principles of quantum computing. The first principle is called superposition principle. The superposition principle defines the existence of certain relations amongst states, and it also now we look at the mathematical representations for quantum computing. The first representation that I would like to mention over here is called Dirac notation. It is also called as bracket notation. It is another way to represent vectors, and if I use this notation, we are supposed to write V as a vector of V0, V1 till Vn, symbolized by, now this is a column vector and it is referred as cat V, and has got the following Dirac notation. Which is the transpose of this column vector, and it is written as the complex conjugate of V. Now this would become a row vector since I did a transpose over here. So now here V bar is called complex conjugate of V. Now this is a dual vector, so this is called bra V. This Dirac notation is applied to a concept known as Hilbert spaces, denoted by Cn. The Cn is the vector space to express reasoning about quantum systems. A Hilbert space, if we intend to define a Hilbert space, it is a vector space with the inner product and a norm. Now the norm is the length of the vector in a vector space and is defined by the inner product. This inner product of a vector space is defined as a mathematical operation which assigns a scalar value to each pair of vectors u and v in the vector spaces. So now the pair of vectors we are taking inside a vector space, and this inner product of the two vectors in a Hilbert space, that is Cn, is denoted by the Dirac notation u line v. So this is the inner product between these two vectors in a complex Hilbert space. Now because there are now two vectors which are the part of this space, so we have to do a dot product of these two vectors. So in order to do a dot product, we have to take a column vector and a row vector, then only the dot product would be applied. So now we are taking dot product of the vectors v and u transpose. So now this becomes the conjugate transpose of u. This is called the conjugate transpose of u. So now since I am doing inner product, it will be symbolized as the dot product of these two vectors, which is the complex conjugate ut multiplied by v. So now here this is a row vector and this is a column vector. So I will write like this. So now after doing the dot product, what I will get will be the sum of products. Now this is the inner product that occurred between the two vectors inside this Hilbert space. Moving on to another mathematical concept is called qubit concept. So what is qubit? Generally, a classical bit may be represented as a base 2 number that takes either the value 1 or 0. Now qubits are represented in a similar way, that they are also base 2 numbers and can take value 1 or 0 when measured, and can collapse into a classical state. Now a qubit can be expressed as a superposition of the measurable values. So superposition principle is applied when we talk about the qubit concept. Of these measurable values, superposition of the measurable values 1 and 0 at any given time as a two-dimensional state space with orthonormal basis vectors. So now there will be one vector which is for 1 value and the another vector which will be for 0 value. For the 1 value I will take notation like. So if you want to refer to the previous point, this is cat1 vector, and similarly I will have another vector for 0 that I will write like cat0. Now I will have to represent the superposition of these two vectors as cat of chi. So this is called cat of chi of a qubit is represented as a linear combination of both basis vectors. So now I will have to associate values which are nothing but complex scalar amplitude. So a0 and a1 in this notation is the complex scalar amplitude. So a0 is the complex scalar amplitude for measuring 0 and a1 is the complex amplitude for measuring the value 1. So now these two amplitudes, that is a0 and a1, will represent the quantum probabilities which represent the chance that a given quantum state will be observed when superposition collapses to a classical state. We now look at the next concept related to quantum computing, that is called entanglement principle. So entanglement means if there are two particles or two elements, if they are in an entangled situation, they cannot be disintegrated into their fundamental parts. The two distinct elements of a system defined to be entangled if one part cannot be described without taking the other part into consideration. So if you have to express one part, you have to take into account the other part which is entangled with the first part. In the case of a quantum computer, we can define the probability of observing a given configuration of two qubits, and they do depend on the probability of observing another possible configuration of those qubits. So there can be two parallel configurations of the two qubits which can coexist with each other. This is called entanglement, and it is impossible to describe the probability of observing one configuration without considering the next one, as I mentioned in the second point. Now this diagram, as you can see, is called a Bloch sphere, which represents both these concepts of quantum computing, that are superposition and entanglement. As I have mentioned, that quantum computer makes the direct use of quantum mechanical phenomenon like superposition and entanglement to perform the operations. we have also discussed the concept of Dirac notation. Here you can see the Dirac notation for the two qubits 1 and 0, which are on the either side of the sphere. So since a sphere is a geometrical shape and this block sphere is a geometrical representation of a quantum bit or a qubit, so qubit can coexist in 0 or 1. So instead of having bits, we have qubits or quantum bits that can be 0 and 1 at the same time. So this is called entanglement principle, where the quantum bits can exist as 0 and 1 at the same instant. So now there can be number of physical objects which can be used to symbolize the concept of qubit, like photon or an electron. But photon and electron are more physical concepts, but when we apply to the computing, we take into account 0 and 1 values, which are represented as qubits. Now we would like to discuss the computational complexity of quantum algorithms. But first of all, we have to look what are the classical notations or classical categories for the problems. So when we talk about the classical algorithms, we have got P class of problems, which are the problems which are solvable in a polynomial time by a deterministic Turing machine. The space efficiency is represented as P space. And now we have got NP class problems which require non-deterministic Turing machine to solve them, which essentially needs an exponential time on a deterministic Turing machine. So you have to run the algorithm exponentially on a deterministic Turing machine. Since to apply non-deterministic Turing machine is difficult, NP complete or NPC problems are the hardest problems in NP. Each problem in NP can be reduced to NPC in a polynomial time, and their solution can also be verified in a polynomial time. So if we have got one NPC problem that can be found in P class, then all the problems in NP class would also be in P. So the theorem which we are looking to solve is P is equal to NP. There are another class known as BPP, that is called bounded error probabilistic polynomial time. So BPP describes the decision problems which can be solved in a polynomial time by a probabilistic Turing machine. Probabilistic Turing machines are those Turing machines which can have any random event going on while processing a random input. The next are the bounded error quantum polynomial time, or BQPs. So BQP is a quantum extension of BPP, where we apply quantum principles inside bounded error polynomial time problems. So these are the class of the problems which are solvable in polynomial time by a probabilistic quantum Turing machine. And it is suspected, it is not yet proved, that P is a subset of BQP, which could essentially mean that quantum computers are capable of solving some problems in polynomial time which cannot be solved efficiently by a classical Turing machine. This is the conjectured relationship between all the complexity classes, including the quantum classes. So the first one was P space, that is the problems which are solvable in polynomial time, like n by n chess or n cross n go games. The next is NPC spaces. Here these NPC spaces are the non-polynomial complete set, which is a subset of NP problems. So NP problems like graph isomorphism problem mentioned here, NPC problems like Boolean satisfiability problem or traveling salesman problem or graph coloring problem. The modern version is BQP. So BQP is a larger set, like to factor the discrete logarithms, and now we have got BPP, that is bounded probabilistic polynomial time, like primality testing, graph connectivity, maximum matching, GCD, etc. Now in this lecture we have seen the basic quantum principles which are applied to quantum computing. We have seen the evolution of various algorithms which were a part of quantum computing, how these algorithms are mathematically expressed. We have seen the, the basic notations like direct notation and Hilbert spaces. We have seen that how these representations are used to express the existence of qubits, the Bloch sphere, which represents the superposition and entanglement principles of quantum computing, and what are the complexity classes when we talk about the quantum computing principles like BPP and BQP. And we have seen how these are interconnected to the classical classes of P, NP hard, and your NP complete problems. With this, we come to our lecture about an overview of quantum computing and how this quantum computing is applied to the algorithms.